Today's topic, the Castle of Good Hope. Took me a second to research some of the stuff for it. Honestly, there's literally just so much that I had to make decisions on what to include in this whole thing. Now, where is the Castle of Good Hope located? In case you don't know that already, it's located in Cape Town, South Africa. This place, honestly, has a ton of history behind it, and that makes sense considering it was built 1666 to 1679. It was built by the DEIC, aka the Dutch East India Company. The reasoning being, this specific area was a pretty good stop point within the spice trade. They wanted a place for which their ships could stock to refresh, blah blah blah. Honestly, kind of a power move, because they were just like, we're gonna have our hands all over this, and you have to stop here, or else are you going to stop? So it was a smart business move, honestly. Now, there was another fort, okay? Other than the original one that we know today, there was another one called, excuse me if I mess up this pronunciation, Fort de Goede Hoop. This fort was initially put into construction shortly after the arrival of the Cape's first commander, Jan van Riebeeck. It was completed in 1656, and the location approximately where this fort would have been in today's terms would be around the post office and the Grand Parade. For those who are interested in what the original fort would have looked like, within the Military Museum they do have a model of it. So, you know what to do, ladies and gents, if you ever find yourself in Cape Town, Africa. Now, this fort actually had a lot of issues, okay? Probably on account of it being made of clay and timber, the walls would kind of collapse, and it was just, generally, it needed a lot of work all the time, a lot of repairs. So honestly, Jan van Riebeeck was kind of just like, hey, this ain't gonna do. And I think, I recall from the stuff that I was looking, he had tried to make that apparent, but unfortunately for him, he would leave before anything was done about it, so. He left in 1662, and construction on the new fort wouldn't begin until 4 years later, so not his problem anymore. Not his problem. Maybe that's a good thing. After our dearest first commander left, his successor would be a man named Zacharias Wagner. Now, other than the fact that the old castle honestly just needed to cease existing on account of just how unstable, and the repairs, the repairs, I just need to stop being. Okay, I just need to stop being. Get out of here. There was another reason, other than that. In 1664, there were a lot of tension between the British and the Danish, like talks and rumors of wars. Everyone was spooked. So it was kind of decided they needed to kick their building stuff into high gear on accounts of, what if they got invaded? What are they going to do with this shabby fort that's just going to fall over, and touching the wall and just And honestly, those of whom would commission it didn't really want to spend the money on it, so it was kind of like, okay, fine, I guess we have to. And they did. The new one would be made of stone and have a pentagonal shape, 5 points, okay? And they actually named every single point after one of the titles of, then, Prince William III, the orange guy, who would later be King William III of England. So, you go from being a prince in the Netherlands to a king in England. Alright, we are moving up, people. Oranges. So the reason for this pentagonal shape was just so that they could be able to protect their area from all angles. Ain't no one getting us. Or them. I wasn't there. Now, there were none of you, though. Some of you immortal. In 1665, the site for this new fort would be chosen by Commissioner Isbrangask. He would actually later become the Cape's first governor. Good for him. Is he immortal? With this potential for war imminent, they really needed to pick this shit up into high gear, no offense. Don't laugh. In order to do that, they would need more than just your typical working crew. They needed labor. Honestly, if you happened to be nearby while they were in such a rush to get this place built, you were likely just to be commandeered, like, hey, we are part of XYZ government, so you, as XYZ citizen, I am commandeering you to build this. So build it. Now, it would include your normal workers, citizens, the Khoi Khoi people, slaves, some 300 soldiers who were just straight up commandeered from ships that happened to pull into the port. So what we're getting to is basically everyone was the workforce here for this castle. Now luckily, by 1667, the rumors of this whole war thing would kind of chill out and everyone would take a bit of a chill pill. As such, they decided to kind of just stop building as quickly. They're still building, but they were taking their time this time. Good. That's good. That's actually good. Good. I'm serious. Are you mortal? However, war, as it does, would once again breach in Europe in the year 1672, which would cause them to be like, oh shit, we gotta start building again because they might invade us. Now, luckily, construction on this castle fort would finally be done in 1679, so interesting fact. The castle actually harbors the oldest known bell in all of South Africa. It had been cast in Amsterdam that same year, 1679, by one Claude Remy. I didn't look up the pronunciation for that, I'm sorry. And is currently located in the now sealed bell tower. Sealed. That's important, remember that. It did everything from warning the citizens of impending dangers, invasion, or invasions of immortals. Also, was just simply rung once an hour to mark the time, an hour has passed. You might be wondering, why was it walled up? Interesting question you have there, and I'm going to answer it. Some 300 years ago, there was a soldier who took the rope of the bell and he hung himself. To this day, with all this activity, because this is a paranormal channel, of course there's going to be more to this than just the general history. Come on, what do you take me for, a non-paranormal channel? Sometimes people, guests and such, to the castle will actually hear the sounds of that bell ringing, which is odd considering that it's sealed up, as I said. I told y'all to remember. You better remember it. That bell weighs about 600 pounds. Or 300 kilograms. That's a lot. How can that ring on its own? Look at this 300 kilogram bell, okay? But that bell ghost isn't the only one to be heard of in the castle. And it's quoted that people often will hear footsteps, and sometimes even see the apparitions of this human figure with no legs, just floating around. Another spirit is that of the Lady in Grey, whom we've also seen running all throughout the castle, holding her hands, crying, her eyes out, literally just hysteric woman just going around like, okay, that just looked like I was in pain. I'm sorry for that. You can go ahead and dislike this video because of that. Are you immortal? It's worth stating that they actually found a female skeleton on the grounds, and it is quoted in belief that that skeleton may just have something to do with the woman running around crying. Another ghost, and honestly, in my opinion, and honestly, this isn't even an opinion, okay, this has to be a fact, the goodest ghost is that of, presumably, a black hound who had once been a guard dog. And in the afterlife, he's still doing his guard dog duties. You know why? Because some people are there and they will literally see this dog and it will go to pounce on them and then just disappear. That is the goodest boy right there, okay? Or her goodest girl. Doing its work, pouncing on people and trying to murder them in the afterlife. Murder puppy. That's the best puppy. There's also the sounds of arguments between a man and a woman near to the guard's room, and when people go to investigate, they'll literally just see a figure. Darkness. There's another apparition that also appears on the walls of the castle who will literally jump off and right before he hits the ground will disappear. Poof, gone. Do you think it's Houdini? Is Houdini immortal? To get into the more very messed up stuff. This castle is actually the site of a lot of torture and executions. My ear's ringing. Okay, I can't hear out my ear. Hang on. Something feels wrong. Something feels wrong. I can't hear out my ear. It's starting to come back. That was interesting. As I was saying, the castle actually has gallows and a dungeon, often torturing people. It's the Castle of Good Hope, and while it has been a very hopeful place for many individuals, it's also been the exact opposite of that for numerous more. The dungeon on the premises is actually known as the Donkergat. The meaning of that is literally dark hole. Windowless. That name for it makes pretty good sense. It is the hole of darkness. Donkergat. They had these shackles, okay? And some of the prisoners would actually be shackled to the wall by them. Not really any way to move. And it was kind of low to the floor. In winter, it was often because the castle is literally right by the shore. Water would flow into the Donkergat. Those whom were shackled would drown. Why do I feel like crying? Oh man. I'm getting a little bit red on my nose. Okay, this is getting weird. Now, within the Donkergat, there had been a lot of people whom had been imprisoned there over the years. One in particular story is that of a man named Fritz Gilbert Ducanes. Between the years of 1899 and 1902, he had been captured as a part of the Second Boer War, which is basically a farmers' war. He decided that he was going to escape because he honestly did not want to be there. Understandably, people would literally drown there. His escape attempt, his plan, was to use a spoon to dig through the cement wall, which honestly almost worked. That wasn't until a rock, big old chunk, slipped and nearly crushed him to death. He laid there unconscious until morning, where the guards would find him. Throughout the years, they even imprisoned various chiefs from surrounding indigenous tribes for a number of things, often just because, quote-unquote, troublesome. You know, they're up to no good, them chiefs. One of these chiefs of whom had been captured was that of a man named Zulu Sishuea. In May of 1659, he was captured in the Nome Forest, being a part of an attempted war of independence that, unfortunately for him and his people, did not go very well for them. It was an attempt to take back their lands that had been taken by all of these colonists that just kind of came in and took over the place. His side would suffer quite the fatalities. Fortunately for Sishuea, he was granted permission to go to England and plead his case to those in authority there, instead of staying where he was to go on trial, which honestly would not have bode well, especially considering, like, the white colonists of the area. That's how they actually tried to protest him going there to be tried. The fact of the matter is that times like that, it wasn't fair. It wouldn't have been fair. So he's very lucky in this fact. On his trip there, they couldn't really let him just wear the clothes that he had. They decided in with the times, would adorn him in clothing that were fit for a more English style. He was hot. Okay? all of the women there kind of thought, like, he had, like, they were looking, okay? They were like, oh, sexual. They thought he was sexy, okay? They thought him wearing that clothing, like, especially in those clothes, they were just like, yes, that's a distinguished gentleman. It was so much so that he literally got dubbed the ladies' man. They even, I am not kidding you, okay? This is literally written down. They wrote a verse for him that is inspired by him because of this. To quote that verse, word to word, it said, "Young white dandies, get to wayo. Clear the way for, set the wayo." I mean, with everything that happened to him, at least he gets that, I guess. That's how history chooses they're gonna remember him. Could have been so much worse. There's another ghost that is heard of often within the castle, is that of General Peter Gisbert van Noot, or as I'm going to call him, Mr. Noodle. No one's going to stop me. He's also known to be seen within a house nearby, which also happens to be considered the Cape's most haunted home, and is suspected to actually be connected to the castle through some kind of secret passage. But that home is not our place for this story. We're talking about the castle. He's actually often heard going around cursing in anger, and honestly, in my opinion, he can go around cursing as much as he wants as a ghost, considering what he did in his life. On the April of 1729, Mr. Noodle decided it right to sentence 7 soldiers to death for what he claimed to be desertion. Now, the actual council themselves did not rule for these soldiers to be killed. They actually gave them a much more lenient sentence, but Mr. Noodle decided he was gonna illegally go over their heads and be like, hey, no, kill them. Now, as all these soldiers were getting hanged, one of them in particular decided that he was gonna speak up and be like, hey, if you're going to hang us, you might as well, actually watch. Why are you not watching? Watch. He was demanding this man whom had done this to watch what he had done. But Mr. Noodle decided no, he's not gonna watch. He disregarded this dying man's request, so this man, with his last breath before he was hung, decided that he was going to curse Mr. Noodle, saying that he one day would face a divine justice for what he was doing, for what he had done. Now, Mr. Noodle probably didn't realize it, but that day would be merely some hours later, because they would find him in his chair, slumped over, with just this expression of surprise, really. Probably shock. He died of a heart attack. Next, there's another little story, which I thought was quite interesting, was about this couple who, during the Van Leeuwenhoek Festival, actually got permission to stay the night at the castle. And during that night, they would be woken up suddenly to this Lance Corporal who was going around yelling for all of the soldiers to get up, because apparently out in the streets there was riotings going on by bus drivers and conductors. The couple got up and you're like, oh, what the hell is going on? And tells them that. And so they rush outside and silence. There's literally nothing going on. And that Lance Corporal, they couldn't find him. He just disappeared too. The next day, they would ask the staff about what had happened, and not a single one of them knew a damn thing of what they were talking about. Now, I have for you guys one last story, and that is that of a ghost there by the name of Lady Anne Bernard. Now, Lady Anne, in her life, was quite an individual. Honestly, I feel like she would have been just very fun to actually have hung out with. In 1797, she stayed at the castle for 5 years. She married the castle's secretary, of which was a man that was 12 years younger than her. Good for her. Cougars, I guess. You know, just marrying the castle secretary also made her the first lady of the colony. As such, she found it her duty to entertain the various more important guests that would go to the castle. You know, she'd throw a lot of events, blah, blah, blah. Just first lady stuff, I guess. She'd also attend these events wearing just beautiful ball gowns, you know, like her best. And it's even said that to this day, whenever more important or well-known guests visit the castle, she'll make an appearance in her most beautiful gowns. Or, you know, if you also could see her, sometimes she's not always in those beautiful gowns, you know, because sometimes she's just completely naked. In life, Anne was really into skinny dipping. she had this pool that she had designed herself from her own drawings. It's called a dolphin pool. And she just skinny dip in there, you know? Swim naked, jump in, dive in, be nude. The only way. Gotta be free. Be free! One officer is actually noted as stating his discomfort in watching her very specifically dive into that pool completely naked, okay? He just was to an extent that they actually would install steps so instead of diving into the pool, she could just walk. But you know what? That would not stop Lady Anne from diving. If she couldn't dive into the pool, you know, sometimes she just spotted over at a stream on Table Mountain. She dived there. Can't stop her. She's gonna dive in whatever pool while naked she wants to, in whatever thing of water. The ocean, a stream. Not this woman skinny dip, I guess. She just wants to skinny dip. But you know what? Good for her. Good for her. Really bad for the guard. He got quite a show. Okay, so I guess that brings me to the conclusion of this video. And I guess the message here is, if you're gonna skinny dip, then skinny dip everywhere you can get away with it. That's probably not the message here. Okay, thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more videos, like, subscribe, turn on the bell so you know the next time that I upload. I'm pretty much enjoying this. This is great. This is great. Stories like that. I'm gonna cry. That's great. Okay. And if you have any interesting stories about the Castle of Good Hope yourself, comment below. Honestly, I would love to hear them. There was just so much information for this that I had to really pick and choose what I was going to include to this video. But I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.